I will say that Misty has spoken with me, but as far as being effective to help me, no. And what I want to show is these two speaking. They're on the Common Council now, the City of Richmond. I accepted their oaths. So I'd like to show what they have to say, and then I'm going to show you what they did to me. And all of them did it.
TV for hosting this and the Chamber of Commerce for making sure that we have access to the voters and say who we are. So thank you very much. Misty Hollis, I chose Richmond to be my home 23 years ago because of IU East, which is where we are tonight. I chose to come here and receive my education and then made Richmond my home. And I choose to continue to stay here not only because of this community, because of the people in this community. I currently serve you, the voter, as the Executive Director of the YMCA. My history goes through the Chamber of Commerce, the City of Richmond, and Richmond Community Schools. And I look forward for you to learn more about me throughout the night.
Okay. Thank you, Eric and Chancellor, for this opportunity tonight. I am Ron Oler. I'm a lifelong resident of Wayne County. Been married to my high school sweetheart for 30 years now. We have no children of our own, but we have 21 nieces and nephews and 9 great nieces and nephews, so some of those are our quasi-children, so I'm highly invested in our community. As Eric said, I'm currently serving on council. This is my first term. I'm currently the president of Richmond Common Council, and for the last 4 years I've enjoyed working with the city's finance committee. I've been on the finance committee and gone through 3 controllers. Not sure how that happened, but what else? Economic Development Corporation, council's liaison, also on the board of directors for Richmond Power and Light. My role at Richmond Power and Light has been working with Parallax, the telecommunications division. My day job, if you will, is a professor and department chair at Ivy Tech Community College, where I'm also this year now serving as the dean of the Division of Business and Public Services, Computers, and Informatics. So highly invested in our community. The Oler family has been in Wayne County since before there was a Wayne County. And so we have some roads named after us. If you're familiar with the Waynesburg area, where I grew up on one of the Oler family farms. And it was at one of the Oler family farms where I learned the value of hard work, due diligence, and that's the thing I bring to council. I'm happy to serve my community in this role. I'm happy to work on all the problems and issues we have and try to make our Richmond, Indiana a better place to live and to work.
Common Council meeting that I first saw Walt Chichester get up and call law of the land under one of the proposed ordinances, which was 78. It'll show at the side here. Let me see. For one thing, it was under Resolution 2, 2013, was the Tom Raper right-of-way that the postmaster Mark Thornburg is his name, and they took Williamsburg Pike and renamed it Tom Raper right-of-way to pull in the corridor, the I-70 corridor, into the city's right-of-way, for one thing. Plus, that used to be U.S. Highway 35, and it shows up as U.S. Highway 35 and Northwest 5th. But again, it's been named Williamsburg Pike, and now it's named Tom Raper right-of-way, which is a mobile home facility, which Mr. Bain, I believe, owns it now. And I think Camper World from Indianapolis just bought it. Camper World is where Paul Stickle was working when he was served papers. In this case, Paul Stickle's the seller that sold many homes the same way they did to my daughter, and did the same things that they did to my grandchildren, to many children in this community. And he's never been in trouble at all. He's been protected by the state of Indiana. And then, of course, they have 2014, and this is what I found alarming. So we'll watch this. The reason I found it alarming is because I had found zero-numbered properties, and I'd gotten into the property cards, and I found that the actual addresses were tied to what appeared to be bank account numbers. Because I got tired of typing when I was researching this fraud upon my family, got tired of typing, so I just copied and pasted an address. Well, it showed up just like a bank account number with arrows pointing up and down and to the left and to the right, etc., and numbers. And there were many zero-numbered properties throughout the city, which, when I called to ask about those, they took the property card system down. under Sally Hutton, the Democratic mayor's leadership. They took it down. However, what they failed to realize is I had copied hyperlinks. Because, as I said, I got tired of typing everything. I copied everything. So when I copied that, I was able to click into the hyperlinks and go right into their system. So they were lying to the public, basically. Their system wasn't down. It was open. And Tony Foster then gets up and speaks to this. And he's in charge of many things. I'll go into what he's in charge of in just a few moments. But this is Tony Foster, and he's going to give a little speech about what's going on. And they're going to laugh about it. The implication is this: they were not holding just a few hundred, they're holding thousands, because there is a foreclosure mill in this city, in this county, and they have to get the land or the made-up land from somewhere, and this is how they're doing it. Back in 2008, Paul Lingle made a real mess out of TIF, tax increment financing. And it's a way to take a lot and kind of block it off into partitions, and he had it a real mess. They had to hire Umba and Associates to come in and fix that. That came from insiders who told me. And I only reveal those sources to the people I need to, so it won't be revealed publicly, but that's a fact.
Ordinance is on first reading.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Elstro.
I'd like to make a motion on ordinance 1/2014 and 7/2014. Suspend the rules and read by title only.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to suspend the rules and hear ordinances 1 and 7, 2014 by title only. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ordinance 1/2014.
A special ordinance vacating a public way.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tony Foster, Director of the Department of Metropolitan Development. Ordinance number 1/2014.
So Tony Foster in this hat is a Director of Metropolitan Development.
14 is an ordinance requesting that a right-of-way be vacated. Has addresses of 0 because this is not there are no residential structures or anything here. But what this is basically right-of-way that was platted, that was never developed. Actually, there are a number of these around the city of Richmond, and over the course of this year, we'll probably be back to you on numerous occasions referring these to Plan Commission, and then they'll come back to you for consideration. But what we're doing here is cleaning up just some of these areas that over the years, when our city was laid out, where streets were supposed to have been built and never were built, we're going to vacate these and turn the property back over to the adjacent property owners. Many of these rights-of-way, for example, are already being maintained by those individuals. They probably think they own it already anyway. So, but this is the first one of several that you'll see this year
That's Sally laughing. And she thinks everything's funny, and so does he. They probably thought they owned him. Yeah, like my little sister, who has been mowing inside her fence line but hasn't been allowed to build a shed. Why? Because it's a right-of-way, and it was sold to her in a fenced-in yard. But the city said that due to ordinances, she couldn't build. So yeah, there's several hundreds, if not thousands of them, and that makes up all the land that they've been running under this scam.
M and South 16th Streets.
We need
to refer this to the Plan Commission. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And when will this be heard?
Fourth Thursday of February.
We'll hold ordinance 4.
Thanks.
So I'll look at the 4th Thursday of February. And what I could do, I'm not going to go.
Good evening and welcome to this Thursday, February 27th, 2014 meeting of the Richmond Advisory Plan. Motion carried. Under new business, we have Ordinance 1/2014, which is a special ordinance vacating a public way or street. A special ordinance vacating a portion of a public way on property north of South M Street in the 1200 block of South 15th Street, specifically 0.172 acres, 66 feet north of lots 52 and 52 of Marymount Addition on South M Street. Since this is a ordinance that has been promoted by the city, we don't have anyone as a speaker to address this, so it'll be addressed by Mr. Zimmerman.
This is the city's attempt to take properties that are designated as right-of-way, either through the subdivision process years ago or through other arrangements, and when that right-of-way is no longer really showing any indication of being needed for public transportation planning or other connectivity through a neighborhood, it does make sense in many cases to be able to allow it to revert to the adjacent property owners and be able to go back on the tax roll. Would also reduce potential city liability. So I'll discuss that further in my staff report, but this would still need to be on public hearing.
Okay, is there any questions of Mr. Zimmerman at this point? If not, we'll open it up for public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak for or against, we'll wait to make sure everyone's had an opportunity. Hearing none, we will close public hearing and move to the staff report.
This is Ordinance 1-2014, the petition of the City of Richmond. Planning staff is the agent for the petition, requesting a vacation of a public right-of-way at property commonly known as a portion of a public way in the 1300 block of South 15th Street, specifically 0.172 acres, 66 feet north of South M Street. The zoning is high-density single-family residential district. 8 adjacent property owners were notified. No objections were received. The portion of the street being vacated has no intended public use. It was platted as part of Greenwood Addition, and that is shown on the collection of maps that you have before you on the first page as Lot 9, which is highlighted. Land from that addition was further subdivided to the south into Marymount Addition in 1929. That is on your second page, and the yellow highlighted box is Lot 9 of Greenwood Addition. To the west, into the Charles Baker Addition in 1948. That is your third and final page. You have to turn the page landscape, and it again shows Lot 9 of Greenwood Addition. But it shows all the lots that were laid out around it. It shows that South 15th Street never was intended to connect through from M Street to L Street. It doesn't, in fact, even line up with South 15th Street north of L. Although we cannot confirm the intention, the right-of-way was created in 1958 by the owner transferring title of the strip of land to the city. An 8-foot sliver of land on the west side of the right-of-way was set up, perhaps to avoid having to involve the other property owner to the west. The right-of-way was possibly set up to allow the development of 2 residences. In the 1950s, houses were already being built where South 15th Street would connect at South L Street. The vacation will simply reverse the 1958 action, which will put the land back on the tax rolls and reduce city liability on that land. It is the administration's intent to return undeveloped, unneeded rights-of-way to adjoining property owners. The planning staff sent letters to adjacent property owners and all utilities and relevant city departments requesting comment on the petitions. A request was made by the Richmond Sanitary District to retain a 20-foot access easement to the west side of the vacated right-of-way to allow access to the sewer line that exists behind properties on South L Street. Staff recommendation is for approval based on the following findings and with the commitment that a 20-foot access easement be retained on the west side of the right-of-way. The vacation would not hinder the growth and orderly development of the community in which it is located in or contiguous to, since the land is unlikely to be developed for residential purposes. The vacation would not make access to lands owned by others by means of a public way difficult or inconvenient because the property owner still has access from a right-of-way at South M and South 15th Street. The vacation would not hinder the public's access to a church, school, or other public building or place because those structures are not adjacent to this property. And finally, that the vacation would not hinder the use of a public way by the neighborhood in which it is located or to which it is contiguous because residences block the potential of extending South 15th Street to South L Street, and there are no plans to ever do so.
Do we have any questions for the planning staff?
Mr. President, Mr. Zimmerman, the diagram that we have here shows little Z's. I think those show connected ownership across lines.
Yes.
So the vacated portion is to be vacated to Donna Godwin?
Correct.
And that includes the, and she's also the owner of the 8-foot strip to the west of the vacated portion?
Yes.
Okay. And to your own knowledge, is the property owner aware of the tax implications of the vacation?
She did sign the letter and returned it to us acknowledging that this was an action that the City of Richmond was intending to pursue.
And we did mention that in the letter that there were tax implications.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? If not, we'll move on to discussion. Having discussion? If not, Chair will accept a motion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Whitney.
make a motion to approve ordinance 1-2014 as presented by planning staff.
Second. We have a motion and a second to recommend ordinance 1-2014 with the conditions recommended by the planning staff. Would you please call the roll?
Shira LaForge.
Aye.
Ray Onto.
Aye.
Joe Price.
Aye.
Brenda Rush.
Aye.
Steve Stevens.
Aye.
Greg Steen.
Aye.
Gary Turner.
Aye.
Jason Whitney.
Aye.
Benny Young.
Aye.
Bruce Whittle.
Aye. Ordinance passed and is recommended on to City Council with approval. Is there any other old business to come before the Commission tonight? If not, Chair will accept the motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
You'll notice the ordinance 1/2014. We're going to go back now. Mr. Miller is going to call it 1/2014, and I believe Karen Chastain is. It's listed as, 2/2014, and then she's going to call it 2/2014, and he's going to say, because he's always making these statements, because it's all planned out. They iPhone and G-phone everybody. But watch this. He'll say 2/2004.
We have two resolutions to come before council tonight. First one is Resolution 2/2014. Mr. Quinn.
I wanted to see first, well, I think it's important to note what the difference is between a resolution and an ordinance. For us, a resolution is basically just a position, if you will. Doesn't go into law. The situation that we're in, or the resolution number 2/2004, resolution recognizing the designation of a public way as Tom Raper Way. You might have heard something about this last couple of days.
He's slick, isn't he? He used to sell fire insurance, if he doesn't still, for vacant homes in Richmond, even though they're rentable. He sold fire insurance for vacant homes in Richmond. He's not running for re-election this time.
And my thanks to the newspaper and getting it out. But I really think, and I think Dr. Oler would agree, that just for the sake of the audience, hoping that it's possible to have this read into the record so that all of the information that we have to discuss tonight is in. And then I wanted to ask President of Council what your recommendation is for discussing it and voting on it, and whether or not you'll be taking public comment. So,
Karen, would you please read Resolution
I'd
2,
love to.
2014?
Resolution recognizing the designation of a public way as Tom Raper Way. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Richmond, Indiana wishes to recognize local citizen and businessman Tom Raper to pay tribute to Mr. Raper as a philanthropist and contributor to the community of the City of Richmond, Indiana. And whereas the Common Council also wishes to recognize the Tom Raper RV business to celebrate the 50-year anniversary of the business and to commemorate and appreciate that the Tom Raper RV business has helped place Richmond on the map and has established a recognizable gateway into the city. And whereas the city has been approached by interested individuals who wish to assist the city in renaming the roadway currently designated as Williamsburg Pike in order that the public way may be designated as Tom Raper Way. And whereas the United States Postmaster for the Richmond Post Office Branch has informed the mayor of the City of Richmond that the formal names of public ways can be assigned alias names in order that the property owners that live in a particular public way do not have to change their formal addresses. And whereas in accordance with Indiana Code 36-9-6-2 and the Richmond City Code Chapter 70.35, the City of Richmond Board of Public Works and Safety is authorized to place and maintain traffic control signs to guide traffic. And whereas, upon passage of this resolution and a resolution by the Board of Public Works authorizing that the public way currently designated as Williamsburg Pike will instead be designated as Tom Raper Way, the mayor of the City of Richmond, Indiana will notify the Indiana Department of Transportation of the designation and authorize the exit signs located on Indiana Interstate 70 to notify traffic of the exit to the public way designated as Tom Raper Way. And whereas it is in the best interest of the City of Richmond, Indiana, that the Common Council recognize and support that the public way currently designated as Williamsburg Pike will instead be designated as Tom Raper Way to pay tribute to Tom Raper as a philanthropist and contributor to the community of the City of Richmond, Indiana, and to commemorate the Tom Raper RV business 50-year anniversary. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Richmond, Indiana, that the Common Council wishes to recognize and support the designation of the public way currently known as Williamsburg Pike as follows: Tom Raper Way, being also Williamsburg Pike, beginning just south of the intersection of Northwest 5th and Sheridan Streets, running northeasterly to I-70. Now therefore be it also resolved that the Common Council of the City of Richmond, Indiana, and the Common Council wishes to recognize and support, after the approval by the City of Richmond Board of Public Works and Safety, the mayor will notify the Indiana Department of Transportation of the designation and authorize the exit signs located on Indiana Interstate 70 to notify traffic of the exit to the public way designated as Tom Raper Way.
Thank you, Clerk. And at this time, I'm going to ask the mayor why it is that this resolution is coming to council, when this is, in all the years I've been on council, we've never had something like this come to council.
We've never changed the name of a street before, so.
She's real slick. She's real slick. And it's been said by an insider that I have, and that's been turned over to the proper authorities. They know what they have. She's going to go out with a big bang. She just recently, there was an article about her, somehow all the financial data got taken away. There's all kinds of property that a lot of these people have suddenly, not all of them, just some of them, have come into. And as you heard the Planning Commission talking about, the people that are the agents on these right-of-ways, they would be responsible here. And watch her. We've never changed the name of a road. I was at the post office, and one of my friends, who's been there for many years, somebody came in and was actually talking about this and had mail for the wrong address, or there's a wrong street name. And she said, oh, that happens all the time. And I said, what do you think about the Tom Raper right? Well, she's just another headache. And see, Mark Thornburg, the postmaster, reportedly got with this Sally Hutton, this mayor, who this city's went to hell under her, which I know a lot of cities have, but let me tell you, we got some major fraud here in Wayne County, Indiana, and it ties Richmond, city of Richmond, county of Wayne, Indiana, ties right to Wayne County, Michigan, which is Detroit, Michigan, which is where the criminal warrant database is housed for the IRS. And that agent in Ogden, Utah told me that. Chief Wolski, the Richmond Police Department chief, told my husband and I that yes, someone had accessed the database. It appeared they had to have a password. And under her leadership, things have really went bad. They talk about the drugs, etc., etc. Well, they're not getting the kingpins, right? So it's a good thing they're having this federal prison resentencing, because they know there's a problem in this country, but they're not trying to fix it. They're just trying to cover their tracks, right, guys?
And the Common Council wishes to recognize and support, after the approval by the City of Richmond Board of Public Works and Safety, the mayor will notify the Indiana Department of Transportation of the designation and authorize the exit signs located on Indiana Interstate 70 to notify traffic of the exit to the public way designated as Tom Raper Way.
Thank you, Clerk. And at this time, I'm going to ask the mayor why it is that this resolution.
And good for Clayton for asking. This council has let this mayor run this place in the ground and not asked, although Clay and Misty Hollis, Clayton Miller and Misty Hollis asked good questions. They have to understand that they're supposed to represent the public, the taxpayers, the citizens, of which I can be considered all three. And I also tried to go up and speak to this 2014, the secret roads, these imaginary alleys, basically imaginary roadways that never came into fruition, for a good month and a half before I was ever allowed to speak there. And there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes in that time, which I found very interesting too, that go up into the federal court system. So I know all about the mill. Even though these folks may not, I do. And I'll come to that later, but I want to go ahead and finish up with this. He's asking her why it's coming to them. And she's going to have a smart-ass answer. And she's going to not name the private investors. And then I'm going to go after this to topics to see what's said about Mr. Raper. I don't need to say anything. I'm going to show you what's being said.
And the Common Council wishes to recognize and support, after the approval by the City of Richmond Board of Public Works and Safety, the mayor will notify the Indiana Department of Transportation of the designation and authorize the exit signs located on Indiana Interstate 70 to notify traffic of the exit to the public way designated as Tom Raper Way.
Thank you, Clerk. And at this time, I'm going to ask the mayor why it is that this resolution is coming to council, when this is, in all the years I've been on council, we've never had something like this come to council.
We've never changed the name of a street before, so I think it's probably been 6 or 8 months ago, I started people coming in and or calling about, could this be made? You know, this is the 50th year anniversary this year of the business, and I don't know about you, but as I've traveled, I've heard 149A in Colorado, Florida, Texas, and California that I remember. I'm getting old, I know. And they certainly have put us on the map. So I know that when it was tried, gosh, probably 20 years ago, one of the big concerns was that the changing of addresses and all of that. And so we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the postmaster. Some council people were there, concerned people, and everybody agreed that once the postmaster gave us the okay that it would be feasible, it'll be no cost to the cities. The signs are going to be donated by an individual, and
first of all, when was the meeting? who was the individual that's going to do the private thing that brings it into the corridor for I-70. And Mitch Daniels, the governor, did something with the toll road too as well. And that's a major highway that goes through many states. Tom Raper moved down to Florida over some scandalous rumors, but I'll show you what those rumors are in a moment. And remember, this is the one that Phil Quinn, who's also a Democrat, just called 1-2004, and Clayton Miller called it 1-2014. So did the clerk, Karen Chastain, but on the front panel of this newscast, it says 1-2013. That is not a mistake. Those are supplied to WCTV most often. The agenda is, and I will get that.
I just think it's a go.
And are you recommending that we do this?
Hmm?
What's the council's pleasure? Do you want me to have public hearing? That's what he asked.
Normally,
because normally on resolutions,
right.
we don't do public hearings, so, but whatever the council chooses.
Well, before you go there, I wondered if there was any questions on or comments on the wording or how this is structured. Obviously,
He brought in the 1-2004. So I'll go back and get that ordinance, or that resolution and ordinance to that past year. She mentioned 20 years back. I'll go back and get any of those under the ones, and I'll be able to tie this together because it's part of their mill. And Denny will remember when he spoke with Keith and them about the state of Indiana and these special public access and right-of-ways and the deal going on here in this state. So this becomes important, and that's one of the reasons that this whole meeting caught my attention, not to mention the zero-numbered properties that they so laughingly joked about.
I've taken plenty of inquiries and questions about this, and I wanted to make sure that while there is a designation honoring Williamsburg Pike as Tom Raper Way, that even when it comes to signage, that Williamsburg Pike is still listed. And I don't think that
It is on 70.
right.
There'll be a slash.
Exactly. So I don't think that that's written in here, but I know that that was the intent, and I'm not sure if it needs to be, but it is something that I think Board of Works will want
Well,
to
I had
maintain.
thought that it probably might be best if we have a slash at the beginning and the ending of the area.
I think that's
For
important
somebody
just to clarify.
new to town or delivering something, so that can still be worked out.
Right.
Tom Raper Way, Williamsburg Pike. Probably be one on the top and one on the bottom.
Amend this resolution then to read.
Are you making that amendment, Mr. Quinn?
Yes, but I want to make sure it's worded correctly. One of the things that will be a focal point here is how information is translated onto directories, whether that's books or online, and I think it's important that we make sure that the wording gets right, and I'm not certain that that's our role. Our role is, do we support the designation? So while
This is Walt Chidester, the one that foreclosed upon my son with the finance clerk for the city of Richmond for a house that he was effectively a renter in, and he lost that, although he didn't lose on the identities he took. And this is their mouthpiece, and he's basically got a little agenda he's reading from there, and he's trying to play lawyer, and he's not. Was an insurance salesman. Clayton Miller is an attorney here in town. Sally Hutton's got, you can just see the greed seething out of her. I can't really stand what she's done to our community. It's a crying shame that they've let this happen. And they all think it's just going to continue. It's not going to continue. I'm going to expose them on it. And He's talking about how it's going to be shown up in directories and books, etc. He's not mentioned it. That would be court cases.
I understand where the city attorney is coming from. I'm not sure how to stipulate what it is or how to do it. The other question that I had is the Richmond City Code Chapter 7035. I mean, these signs will be in accordance with our current zoning. And I just wanted to stipulate that too, that I don't want in the middle of the median on Williamsburg Pike, it's a 100-foot sign up there that isn't within our current.
The current coding and codes that were used in 2013 were actually fake. They said that they changed ordinance and resolutions in accordance with the United States Supreme Court. I went to the United States Supreme Court website after looking at the code and seeing all the deletions. I have those. And all the red letters and all the total lies to the public. I don't think anybody in this city, any public or citizens, have ever looked at that. But it's a long, big PDF with a bunch of deletions, etc. in it. And they said they went through the United States Supreme Court. I went there, and all it was a case management plan for their courts, and it was very common. And so I went back and told them, hey, you guys, your ordinances and code book is all wrong. The city attorney and the county attorney, their law firm, drew that book up. Well, now they've taken it off, but I do have it, and I will get that out this week. It'll be done.
Current zoning. So I just wanted to make sure that those 2 points were sort of highlighted. But while I would make a motion to amend, I'm not sure how to do it, and I'm not sure that that's what we need to do, but or where it should be.
Mr. President?
Mr. Wingett?
Walt, would there actually have to be an amended resolution? Couldn't the resolution stand and then the Board of Works would take upon the responsibility along with the mayor of the signage, the setback, the slashes? And when we had the meeting, Mayor Hutton, if you remember, the gentleman on the phone from the state was talking about how the signs could.
That's the guy, Mr. Wingett, who it's somehow tied to the property that has my birth certificate under my daughter's stolen identity, or what we suspect is. And I spoke with the owner of that property, Mr. Northrup. He also owns Duco Incorporated, and he's admitting to having a meeting with her. I can't find that meeting anywhere. I will go down and get the minutes, or send him a message, send him a requirement that I get that information. But he had a meeting with her. There's a private person paying for this, and that is his district where that runs. He has a financial interest.
And should be done, and he would make a recommendation. So would that not be something, Walt, to be worked out with the Board of Public Works rather than just on a resolution?
We can do that.
Would that be satisfactory with you?
Yes.
Okay. Another thing I'd just like to comment, I mean, the resolution reads basically twofold, recognizing not only Tom Raper, but I think more importantly, this resolution recognizes the business and what the business has brought to the community. 50 years in Richmond, Indiana, and believe me, they have put the Tom Raper exit is, like Mayor Hutton said, very famous to everyone. And I'd just like to comment that Mr. Bain, that purchased Tom Raper RV business, is doing a lot, not only business-wise but community-wise, and also with the celebration of Tom Raper Camper being 50 years in June. I think the timing is of the essence, and I would highly recommend this resolution.
Is that a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2-2014.
Is there any other discussion?
I'll second the resolution.
So here's a motion to accept 2-2014 that's tied to 2-2013 that's tied to 2-2004 and here's Donald Wingett, who that's his district, that I-70 corridor, and that property that's tied to my birth certificate under the transaction that occurred under properties under when my daughter purchased a house at 422 Randolph, but there was 2 other properties tied to it. That was yet an offspring of that. But he has my birth certificate tied to a commercial transaction that he has most recently creatively refinanced for this young man, Mr. Northrup, who was very nice to me. He goes, gee, I hope nothing's wrong with the tax, and da-da-da-da. He got him out of taxes. And Donald Wingett is all gun-ho, and he's not expressing his financial interest, and I'm not the first one that's looked at him. But good thing Clayton Miller asked why it was brought to council. It was brought to council so that Phil Quinn could bring all that up, and they could wind this up under everybody's nose. They don't think anybody will catch it. I spoke to council members about this in this little number game they're playing, and of course it's gotten nowhere. So I think that's good enough. They end up voting on it. And of course, there's the vacating the public right-of-way. And this one right here, we'll look at another time. But let me go to topics. The city attorney. One of the homes that they had under Chris's house that he reportedly bought, one of the addresses was at a lot in Ohio with a mobile home on it, a mobile home camper. It's just amazing to me how creative these folks are in hiding the funds that they are embezzling from the federal government and not paying taxes on. They're just doing it under everybody's name, right? That's okay. The IRS catches up with everybody sooner or later. Away. And he did a lot of good things with the church. He's no worse than any of the Catholic stories I've heard of. So he left this community for a reason. There was a pornography ring busted, and he left during that time. Dr. Stoller, or Stoley, was not spared such acts. So we now will go to... I finally got to speak to this on March the 16th. Of 2014. In the meantime, I went into Karen Chastain, the clerk that spoke there, into her office. I just happened to go in. I thought I'd stop by one day. And I went in, and I heard her saying, she said she was talking to Clayton Miller. She said, Clay, this is what I heard her saying. And I looked at Monica Burns because I didn't have her in my eyesight. And I said, is she talking about me? She goes, I think she is. She goes, Carol's out here. So I went in and I said, so I heard you talking about the fact that you said that you didn't, that Carol Isaacs is unstable. Carol Isaacs is unstable. She said, now Misty Hollis told me that. During this time frame, I had some communications from some very high up lawyers that tied to a case in Chicago. And I will show that momentarily. But I'm here to tell you folks that the only thing I've been diagnosed with, ever, that would be considered a diagnosis, is being of superior intellect when it comes to solving complex problems, and I'm perfectly sane. My mind's in great shape. I rapid fire things because I can get it quicker than anybody else, and it's not my fault if people can't keep up with me, because by golly, I'm telling you what I'm telling you is true, and I'm showing you the proof. So February the 3rd was this meeting. I continued to try. On February the 12th or 14th, they tried to replace me with a person named Angela Bauer in Chicago under a either wrongful death or injury suit. And what I found interesting was, excuse me, it's March 17th. What I found interesting was that the lawyer that I've always dealt with is an ethical man. Even if he is an attorney, and a lot of people have a bad opinion of attorneys, I love this man as a friend, and I was with him for many years. And he wrote me and told me exactly what was going on. And it was very clear that this common council and these attorneys had something to do with what was occurring behind the scenes, and I'll go to that later, but let me show you this. And we saw the minutes where they had the planning commission on this, and this man, C1 2014, a special ordinance. This would be miscellaneous business. Let's look at that, since that's that Tom Raper right-of-way. Should be, since it's 2014, which is what they just named back there. The Tom Raper right-of-way. Let's see what that's about.
Thank you. Is there any other miscellaneous business come before council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Quinn.
I wanted to take an opportunity to maybe take a step back. At our March 3rd meeting, we had ended on the final vote of Ordinance 2, 2014 with a tie vote, and I would like to have us relook at that now that we have an odd number of people on council to be able to do that. And before
he did that when he saw Denny and I come in.
Before I make that the motion, we had ended on the final vote of Ordinance 2, 2014 with a tie vote, and I would like to have us relook at that now that we have an odd number of people on council to be able to do that. And before I make that the motion, I just wanted to make sure that we understood correctly what this would entail. And the motion that I'd like to make is to reconsider Ordinance 2, 2014 so that it can come back to us on third reading as opposed to a reintroduction, which would start the process all over. And I just wanted to clarify with the city attorney and make sure that that was appropriate for us to do.
That is correct.
Okay. I also know that it does take...
They knew I was coming to this meeting. I played heck trying to get there. She put my ordinance I was going to speak to and the other one on the back page. And as you see, when I get up there, I say 1, 2014 and 2, 2014. But I was actually speaking to the entire meeting of February. That's our 2014. Now, remember, 2, 2014 was the Tom Raper right-of-way. Then he called it, that guy called it 2, 2004. Clayton called it 2, 2014. Karen called it 2, 2014. Or the resolution, which would have turned into an ordinance. And now, after Denny and 4 others came in with me, and they saw me there, he's just suddenly coming out of the blue and saying, "Wouldn't that be correct, Walt?" And Walt's like, yeah. So they think they've pulled the wool over somebody's eyes on what they're doing behind the scenes. Here they have not. What they did to me was criminal.
Mr. President,
Mr. Quinn.
I wanted to take an opportunity to...
Quinn.
I wanted to take an opportunity to maybe take a step back. At our March 3rd meeting, we had ended on the final vote of Ordinance 2, 2014 with a tie vote. And I would like to have us relook at that now that we have an odd number of people on council to be able to do that. And before I make the motion, I just wanted to make sure that we understood correctly what this would entail. And the motion that I'd like to make is to reconsider Ordinance 2, 2014, so that it can come back to us on third reading as opposed to a reintroduction, which would start the process all over. And I just wanted to clarify with the city attorney and make sure that that was appropriate for us to do.
That is correct.
Okay. I also know that it does take 6 votes to do that, so based on the fact that I don't think many of us like tie votes, I do move to reconsider Ordinance 2, 2014 and ask that it come back to third reading.
I'll second.
There's been a motion. And a second to reconsider Ordinance 2, 2014. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Jack Elstra.
Aye.
Kelly Cruz Nicholson. Aye. Bruce Whistle.
No.
Don Wingett.
Aye.
Larry Parker.
No.
Misty.
Aye.
Aye. Ron Oler.
Aye.
And Phil Quinn.
Aye.
And Clay Miller.
No.
Okay,
Motion
so,
passes.
yeah.
Good for them. And now Misty will end up saying no too. And good for Larry Parker. His mother would be proud, and she was a lovely lady.
Yeah, it does.
Then is there a further?
Miller.
No.
Okay,
Motion
so,
passes.
Yeah, it does.
Then is there a further motion?
Yeah, Mr. President, I move that we suspend the rules on Ordinance 2, 2014 and move to final reading and read by title only. I asked that as a question. I'm not sure if that's the next step or not.
As I understand it, it's already on third reading
Yeah.
by the nature of
It's
that
on third reading.
motion.
So is it just at this point another final vote?
I
Okay.
believe it would be so. Are there any final comments or questions before we vote again on Ordinance 2, 2014?
Mr. President,
Mr. Wingett?
I just want to clarify Mr. Quinn's statement, and I think, Walt, you did so, but I just want to make sure that we're clear. Phil, we left it on third reading, correct? And Phil brought the motion back to vote, which takes 6 of 9 to get it back?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
I just have one comment before we vote. I think it's important that we do have an understanding and we have a majority one way or the other so that we know how to address these types of issues in the future. I know that the mayor has supported this ordinance, and I know that some on council have, and so I think it's just the honorable thing to do to not leave something like that somewhat hanging. And so I respect council persons that are up here and any decision that they come up with. I just wanted to make sure that there was some finality to this ordinance vote. So thanks for taking up the issue.
Are there any other questions? I would just note that by ordinance, a tie vote, at least under existing law, is a final vote. A tie vote is a negative vote. I think this is something that has been decided, and I think that it gets dangerous when we go back and rehash things over and over again. But having said that, it was a properly made motion. It received the 6 votes, and with that, I'll ask the clerk to please call.
It was a properly made motion that's going to become important at the very next council meeting after I speak to this February 3rd meeting, because as you can see, I'm on public hearing. You will see I am on public hearing, and I can prove it, and you can see their actions, but check out how they vote on this one. And he stated it's a very dangerous thing. And they did this on the land because Eric Marsh's staff told me that sometimes Karen Chastain does not supply the sheet. And that day, she changed the sheet that very day and called me to show up at that meeting. They were going to finally let me speak. finally let a member of the public, a taxpayer, a citizen, a live woman speak. But they didn't know I was going to speak as a live woman.
Call the roll.
Jack Elstra.
Aye.
Kelly Cruz Nicholson.
Aye.
Bruce Whistle.
No.
Don Wingate.
Aye.
Larry Parker.
No.
Misty Hollis.
No.
Ron Oler.
Aye.
Phil Quinn.
Aye.
And Clay Miller.
No. Passes.
Uh-huh.
Ordinance is on.
Okay. So the ones that knew what they were doing said no, and good for them. But this is the deal here. The things that he said about rehashing these events totally takes his tailspin, because I went in there with good intentions. Every step of the way I've had good intentions. And like I said in my public post, which I'm allowed to post, I'm the First Amendment, freedom of speech. I'm speaking the truth. If I'm not, they can sue me for slander, and I would be liable. I'm not liable because I'm telling you. I research very, very well. This is their own words at their own meeting as a matter of public record. And I'm following the history of what they did. And not only that, wctv reposted many, many meetings that I have yet to get completely through. And I can go back to 1/2013 online. But here, this is over. So now we're going to go down to the one I'm going to speak to, correct? And you saw I was there. And I'll show you the 1/2014. And this is Miscellaneous Business Ordinance 2, 2014. The other one was Resolution 1/2014. I'll get to the bottom of that, but...
Okay. Ordinance on second reading. Ordinance number 1, 2014, a special ordinance vacating a public way.
Mr. Whistle.
Ordinance 1, 2014 is a request to vacate a portion of the 1300 block of South 15th Street, specifically .172 acres, approximately 66 feet north of South M Street. This request will return land not planned for a roadway to be returned to the adjoining property owners. It is the administration's intent to return undeveloped, unneeded right-of-ways to adjoining property owners when not necessary for future access or transportation plans. The portion of the street being vacated has no intended public use. This area was platted as part of Greenwood Addition in 1846. Land from that addition was further subdivided to the south into Marymount Addition into 1929 and to the west in Charles Baker Addition in 1948. Although the city's planning office cannot confirm the intention, the right-of-way to be vacated was created in 1958 by the owner transferring title of the strip of land to the city. An 8-foot sliver of land on the west side of the right-of-way was set up, perhaps to avoid having to involve the other property owners to the west. The right-of-way was possibly set up to allow the development of 2 residences. In the 1950s, houses were already being built where South 15th Street would connect to South L Street. The vacation will simply reverse the 1958 action, which will put the land back on the tax rolls and reduce city liability on that land. The ordinance was heard at the Thursday, February 27, 2014 Richmond Advisory Plan Commission meeting with 10 commission members in attendance. No one presented opposition to the request. The commission did question if the property owner was aware that the vacation could have an impact on their taxes. The staff replied the property owner was advised that in the letter that was signed and returned to the city. Planning staff reported that the Richmond Sanitary Department requested an access easement 20 feet wide on the west side of the vacated right-of-way to access sewer lines behind properties on South L Street. Based on that information, staff recommended approval of the vacation with the following conditions of fact. The vacation would not hinder the growth and orderly development of the community in which it is located in or contiguous to, since the land is unlikely to be developed for residential purposes. 2, the vacation would not make access to lands owned by others by means of a public way difficult or inconvenient, because the property owner still has access from a right-of-way at South M and South 15th Street. 3rd, vacation would not hinder the public's access to a church, school, or other public building or place, because those structures are not adjacent to the property. And 4th, the vacation would not hinder the use of a public way by the neighborhood in which it is located or to which it is contiguous, because residences block the potential of extending South 15th Street to South L Street, and there are no plans to ever do so. The Plan Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the ordinance.
And he stops there. This is going to be very important. I showed you the Planning Commission before they had the meeting. He basically restates everything. I got a copy of the ordinance from Karen Chastain of the Planning Commission, and there's nothing to be added to this. And I'm going to speak. They didn't expect this, and you can see the shock on their face. You will see that 45 seconds elapses where they're allowing someone to basically harass me, and you will see the fire marshal, the new fire chief that's named. They plan this out perfectly. They're very slick, because I went in there with good intentions. And another thing I will show are the public official insurance policies that Kim Vessels nor the legal department for the city of Richmond ever supplied to me, but my insider did. I have about 4 insiders. They supplied those to me, and they specifically supplied a blanket policy for public official dishonesty. And this is exactly how I've been dealt with. And guess what? It was never my intention to collect on any kind of insurance, period. I just wanted to accept their oaths and shake their hand and say, good job. I told them they did a good job. I shook their hands by accepting the oaths that they took under the Constitution to perform and discharge their duties as public officials that I, in fact, helped elect. I pay taxes. I am a citizen. I abide by their laws, even if their laws aren't valid, because it appears, and this is probably a trick, but it appears too those councilmen did not have oaths that were up to date at all, since they get supplied oaths of April the 14th of 2014. And I was asking for their oaths on March 17th of 2014. And at the next meeting, you're going to see what they did to me concerning this. And then I'm going to show you where I'll stop there. We'll just go on with this. Now watch this. You're going to see Mr. Oler, a law professor who handles Parallax Communications that's ran by RP&L, and how he tries to turn it into a meeting, and how I'm treated by Kim Vessels. And one of the council persons stated I didn't like how you were treated. Well, I'm sure they didn't. They didn't know that I understood what was going on, because I didn't at that point. I had to re-watch these as recently as 3 weeks ago. Is when I found out about this, when I went in to get some materials from WCTV, and they asked if I'd seen updates on the website, and I said no. So I went back to watch, and in watching, I watched this to see if they ever changed the fact that they never gave the right date for this meeting here at their next common council. So let's just watch. and just watch everything. You can see clearly they're very flustered. They didn't expect this. But remember on the 2014 where Phil Quinn brought in this new thing to be redone, this Tom Raper right-of-way? They're running it under the fireman's pension fund, and they waited to do this fire chief thing. He was at the last meeting. They waited to appoint him this way because they're running these funds in part through this fireman's pension fund. That is my belief, my educated guess, in part.
Ordinance 1, 2014 is on public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, in opposition to, or ask questions, please do so at this time. As you come forward, please state your name and your address.
Hi, Carol.
I'm a member of the public, and it's on public hearing, right?
Berlin of the Family Coop, and my mailing address is 1316 Boyer Street, Richmond, Indiana. And I was listening to, on the television, the February 3rd, 2014 televised Common Council. And thank you, you all do a good job. And I heard this particular 214, is that it? Or, no, it's 2014, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So
as you can see, I said 2014 and 2014. When I said 2014, I said, no, it's 1. And they said, yeah. All of them said, yeah. But Quinn changed that all around, didn't he, at this meeting when they saw me come in? Like a sheep being brought to the slaughter, they think, or being hung out to dry. Didn't want to leave these kind of matters hanging here, this odd number hanging here. And we'll go back and look at this, but watch this.
I've had some questions as to what exactly has the city been doing with these imaginary streets up until now?
Nothing.
Okay.
These areas were.
Pardon me?
Continually mowing the grass.
Mm-hmm. So that's all?
Or asking the neighbors to mow it for us. But the idea is to put them back on the tax rolls because there's no future use plan for these areas.
Okay, so the people that thought they owned them all along but were maintaining them, as Mr. Foster stated on February the 3rd, 2014, thought they owned them, and now they're going to be taxed on them. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know that they all knew that, but
the
fact is, yes, a lot of people, I think, just assumed it over the years.
I just caught it that day, so I just have a few things I need to say, and then I'll take questions if that's okay.
But that's, yes, they will be paying taxes on it. They didn't before, and I can't speak to whether they knew they owned it or not.
Okay. Okay. I, a woman, accept your oath as bond to uphold the Constitution for the United States of America and Indiana State Constitution and the common law of England according to the hierarchy of law. I require of the man Jack, the man Bruce, or Bruce, the man Don, the man Clayton, the man Larry, the man Ronald, the man Phil, the man Walt, and I require of the women Kelly, the woman Misty, the woman Sally, the woman Karen, to provide their oaths of office with the regulations and certifications, bond number, errors and omission, liability, carrier, contact information for the compliance officer, and the same for the underwriter. I trust that what you are to administrate is not part of or under Resolution Agenda 21. And I have my mailing location for you.
Are there
any questions?
Any questions? Yeah. Thank you.
requested on the public record is that's my mailing. And I'm not going to submit anything, I put it on the record.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comments to come before council on this ordinance?
All right. We'll treat it as a public records request.
Okay.
And we will look into those documentations. We will look into this documentation and we will try to locate these documents. And we will notify you of the cost of those documents if they exist once we locate them.
I would like certified copies, and I know that they exist, and I would like those sent to my mailing address.
Thank you.
And those do cost extra.
I understand that. I'm just letting you know.
I'm just informing you of
All right, thank you.
That's all that. Thank you.
And I trust the law department will respond accordingly.
We've responded verbally in accordance with the law, and we will also follow up with a written correspondence.
Mr. Wilson?
Hi, Nick Wilson. I live here in Richmond. I'm not addressing the ordinance. I'm addressing what just happened here.
If he's not addressing the ordinance, then that makes what's said in about 30 to 45 seconds only pertain to me when I stood up.
Kim?
I'm sorry, yes.
I don't think that's the way we do public record requests, is it? I mean, I have to put all mine in writing if I want a public record request.
She has submitted it verbally.
I've tried to submit verbally too before and have been,
Normally, we
turn it in
require
paper.
them to submit them in writing.
Then that's what we need to do. Then
We're
that's
on
what we
public
need to do.
hearing on ordinance 1, 2014, so I'd like comments to be limited to that ordinance, please.
Thank you. It took long enough, and I told one of the council people this. They're fully aware, all of them are now.
Are there any further comments?
Move for engrossment.
Second. There's been a motion and a second to engross ordinance 1, 2014. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. President.
Mr. Parker.
Move to suspend the rules and advance ordinance 1, 2014 to third and final reading, read by title only.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to suspend the rules and advance ordinance 1, 2014 to third reading, and read by title only. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance number 1, 2014, a special ordinance vacating a public way.
Any final comments? Please call the roll.
Jack Elstro.
Aye.
Kelly Cruz Nicholson.
Aye.
Bruce Whistle.
Aye.
Don Wingett.
Aye.
Larry Parker.
Aye.
Misty Hollis.
Aye.
Ron Oler.
Aye.
Phil Quinn.
Aye.
And Clay Miller.
Aye.
All are in favor.
We have no ordinances on third reading, and I guess for clarification on two matters, ordinance 11, 2014 will advance to second reading by our rules, and again, I would ask to look in to make sure whether that needs to be advertised for public hearing at the next meeting. And then with respect to ordinance 15, 2014, I've directed that be submitted to Unsafe Building Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, and Plan Commission. If there are any other boards, committees, or agencies that are interested in comments on that, again, I would ask that those reports be made in a timely fashion.
Mr. President.
Mr. Whistle?
When were you looking for the responses from the committee?
I'm right-handed. I never take that document from her. Denny, sitting beside me, takes the document. I never touch it because I have already, these folks have tried to get her to submit this to me, and she does try to write a letter later, and I have the correspondence for that. I'll be sharing that this week.
By May 13th,
Okay.
so that those can be distributed in the packets for May 19th.
Okay, thank you.
Is that, Mr. President, the May 13th for the May 19th then,
Correct.
next meeting?
May 13th is a Tuesday, so we can give them our packet for the following Monday night. Any other business come before council?
Yes.
Dr. Oler.
Mr. President, before we adjourn, Madam Mayor, I'd like to have you formally recognize our new fire chief, if you could, please. We haven't done that yet in a public meeting.
Do you see how he says that? And then watch, the fire chief, after he gets done, will go back and pat Nick Wilson on the back, who is misled wildly.
Our new fire chief, Purcell.
Chief Purcell.
No, you can go first.
Chief Purcell, you need to come up. Your new fire chief, Jerry Purcell.
Congratulations, Jerry.
Thank you. As I stated in the paper, it's an honor. I take the job very seriously, and have been with the department for 30 years, and I hope that I can serve the men as well as citizens well and leave a good footprint.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Any other business?
Move for adjournment.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings you've given us. We thank you for the opportunity to serve you and our community. We pray that we'll be good stewards of all that you set before us, and that you will give us the strength and the wisdom to lead our community forward. And I pray that your Spirit will guide us down a more united path to peace and prosperity.
So, he's saying this prayer, and what they're going to do next is they're going to approve the meeting minutes for the wrong meeting that never occurred. The only time March 21st happened on a Monday, and they've always been on Mondays, the meetings for the Common Council every other Monday, unless they're canceled or rescheduled due to a holiday. March 21st fell in the year 2005 and 2011. So they're going to also basically take back and rehash the ordinance that I spoke to at the previous meeting.
Amen.
Amen.
Oh yes, and you're going to see Karen Chastain, or barely hear it. She's going to state March 17th. And this Donald Wingett's going to say, what? And she's going to say, never mind. But Clay Miller looks down at her.
Karen, please call the roll.
Jack Elstro.
Here.
Kelly Cruz Nicholson.
Here.
Bruce Whistle.
Here.
Don Wingett.
Here.
Clay Miller.
Here.
Larry Parker.
Here.
Misty Hollis.
Here.
Ron Oler.
Here.
And Phil Quinn.
Here.
All are present.
In your packets was included the minutes for the regular meeting of March 21st, 2014. Are there any additions or corrections?
Mr. President?
A member of the public, a citizen, a member of the community that abides the law, and all they've done is drag my grandchildren, babies, children through the mud using their identities. And I voted these people in, and they can't even go gather up enough guts to stop this.
In your packets was included the minutes for the regular meeting of March 21st, 2014. Are there any additions or corrections?
Mr. President?
Nothing.
Mr. Wingett.
You see Wingett go, what is that? And she goes, nothing, and looks down.
If there is no additions or corrections, I make a motion we approve the minutes as received.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second.
And Misty seconded. That's heartbreaking.
Second to approve the minutes as received. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Presentations, memorials. Reports from department heads, standing committees, special committees, and organizations. We have a request from the Police Merit Commission for the reappointment of board member Ann England. I believe our tradition is that we will hold those until the next meeting. Is there any other recommendations? We get miscellaneous business. We have, actually, clerk, if you want to read by title.
Ordinance number 1, 2014, a special ordinance vacating a public way.
And if I may, and I'll have Mr. Chittister correct anything that I may misstate, Ordinance 1, 2014 was a special ordinance vacating a public way.
You folks have been told about Mr. Chittister and Mr. Cross and their conflicts of interest and the fact that they're stealing children's identities. You've been told this for many, 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 many months. And instead of correcting it, you move on forward. So you participated. And you not only do that, the meeting before you give the wrong date, so you never approve the fact that I accepted your oaths. It doesn't change the fact that I accepted you at your word under those oaths and the election process that you were reportedly validly elected to. And you give the wrong minutes, meeting minutes. You don't okay the fact that I accepted your oaths. You're so worried about, the insurance. Guess what? I went up there with good intentions, and that was just part of what I needed to ask for. But look what you did to me here. And now they're going to go back to the ordinance that I spoke to. But I spoke to the whole February 3rd, 2014 meeting. And they also had me speaking to, remember when they rehashed the 2014 at this March 17th meeting when they saw us enter? The Tom Raper right-of-way resolution that turned into an ordinance. And if it didn't turn into an ordinance, then it's it's the fire chief's appropriations for the fire department and for the Richmond Police Department. So either way, it's not good. On that one, on the 2014, it was actually 2013, or 2004, and now they're calling the minutes of March 21st. And that could be the year 2005 or 2011. But it's certainly not this year of 2014 because there was no meeting on that date, as I will show you. Now watch, they're going to, what I spoke to, they're not only going to not approve the minutes, now they're going to back out of that.
So we have, actually, clerk, if you want to read by title.
Ordinance number 1, 2014, a special ordinance vacating a public way.
And if I may, and I'll have Mr. Chittister correct anything that I may misstate, Ordinance 1, 2014 was a special ordinance vacating a public way that was presented at the last council meeting. And when we pass those, typically we take into recommendation, or we amend the ordinance to include the recommendations of the Plan Commission. Through an oversight, the ordinance was not amended and those recommendations were not included. So if it's, and I believe that that was just an oversight of the council, so if the council wishes to include those.
Pay attention to, he believes it was an oversight. And remember, Bruce Whistle stopped. There was no oversight. There was no amendments either. He believes this is just an oversight. This is going to become important in June when they finally pretend like they finally okayed the proper minutes after many phone calls, and they had the messages, many phone calls, and me writing one of the council people and telling them, I know what you guys are up to. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to quit this number game you're playing because I'm paying attention. Well, it's a good thing you're paying attention. We like that we're kept on our toes. All the while not knowing what they were actually doing to me behind the scenes. I had a clue that I couldn't trust them, but I wanted to have a little bit of hope here. I wanted to be like Nick Wilson and think the best of these folks, right? Well, I can't think the best of these folks. They are not ethical and they're criminal. There's criminal behavior here. There's a lot of money at stake. They're CAFR funds that they have had the data for many years. That's a fact from one of my insiders. They have the data. They have the funds. They know what's in their CAFR funds.
And we would need a motion to reconsider that ordinance, to open it back up, and then a unanimous vote to be able to make that amendment. We would have a public hearing on that, on those amendments. So, first of all, is there a motion to reconsider Ordinance 1, 2014?
So moved.
Second. There's been a motion and a second to reconsider Ordinance 1, 2014. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And now the board would, or the the chair would entertain a motion to allow us to, I guess, unengross ordinance 1/2014 in order that it may be amended.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to unengross ordinance 1/2014. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And with that, at this time, we may make the, or amend the ordinance to include those recommendations of Plan Commission.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Whistle?
I move that we amend ordinance number 1/2014 to include the recommendations of the Plan Commission.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to amend ordinance 1/2014 to include the recommendations made by Plan Commission, and those were all presented at the last meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
14 Richmond Common Council meeting. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing by prayer from Councilor Cruz Nichols.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, I ask you tonight that you provide comfort for our country. You give us some sort of understanding as to what is going on, things that we can work with, things that we can't. Let us be able to let them go. I ask that we have comfort within our city and pray for our citizens that are working hard each day to make this a better place to live. Amen.
Karen, please call the roll.
Jack Elstrup. Kelly Cruz Nicholson.
Here.
Bruce Whistle. Clay Miller.
Here.
Don Wingate. Larry Parker. Misty Hollis.
Here.
Ron Oler.
Here.
And Phil Quinn. 6 are present.
And I personally spoke with Councilors Wingate, Quinn, and Parker, and their absences are excused tonight.
So only 6 people there tonight, huh?
In your packet are the minutes from the May 19, 2014 meeting. What's council's pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Hollis.
there are no changes. I'd make a motion to approve the minutes for May 19th, 2014.
Second. There being no discussion, all those in favor of approving the minutes for May 19, 2014 as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Karen, we were asked to make a correction on some minutes from April, is that correct? April 7, 2014, and that is to correct a date that was stated of March 17th, should have been March 21st.
No, it was stated March 21st and it should be the 17th.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, and I think that was just something that was a date that was overlooked. So, is there someone who's willing?
There was no overlooking the date. There was no March 21st meeting. And you're going to see that there's not a proper motion made to amend this. They all just second it.
Willing to amend the April 7, 2014 minutes to reflect approval of the March 17th rather than 21st minutes.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First minutes.
So moved.
There is, they may mention the year, but I don't think that they do. Maybe they do. But there is no properly made motion from someone else.
Date that was stated of March 17th should have been March 21st.
No, it was stated March 21st and it should be the 17th.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, and I think that was just something that was a date that was overlooked. So, is there someone who's willing to amend the April 7, 2014 minutes to reflect approval of the March 17th rather than 21st minutes?
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion second. All those in favor?
There was no motion. They all just seconded it.
I think that was just something that was, a date that was overlooked. So is there someone who's willing to amend the April 7, 2014 minutes to reflect approval of the March 17th rather than 21st minutes?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Presentations, memorials, or remonstrances.
Watch the mayor talk about our phone systems and how people are getting the wrong message. I'm not going to go into all that. I can go on and on. I've already got those tapes. So I think that's about enough for this session.